Good morning, church. Fakes, forgeries and lies. I have a task which I give to Year 11 history students called Fakes, Forgeries and Lies, and there's at least one of those people sitting in the congregation this morning, I can see, that is going to experience the joy of this task. And what it is that I have to choose a story which doesn't really have a solid conclusion to it. There's some mystery about what happens in the end, and they have to generate some sources which take the story in a different direction. And for want of a better word, I'm making these students learn to become liars. They have to generate stuff which doesn't exist. But the reason why we do that is because we understand how easily it is for us to be fooled these days. Last year I had a student who produced an email from a guy that existed in America at a university, and what she did, she had this guy verifying the authenticity of a particular artifact. So the guy really existed, he was at a university, and what she did, she emailed a copy of this email to herself at school to print it off there, but had the guy's email included in the email. So the school gets an email sent to it saying, look, I'm a professor at blah, blah, blah. I've got this email verifying all this stuff that is obviously wrong, and I'm a bit, perplexed about the story. So I had to reply to this guy going, no, look, it's all right. She just emailed it to herself, and we're doing a task where students have to make stuff up and make it believable. We understand the reliability and validity of sources. I've got a letter in one of those little display A4 glass things you hang on the wall, picture frame, and in it, it's got the Australian federal government letterhead, Australian government letterhead. It's got a guy that really exists named on the bottom. It's from the Customs Department, and this guy is verifying, some information about an artifact that a student presented in class. How easy is it to cut and paste off the internet? To find out that someone really exists, to put their name, to forge a signature, and to make it believable. So we have to deal with fakes and forgeries and lies all the time. And sometimes it gets hard to sort out what's really fact and what's really fiction. But of course, history is littered with a whole bunch of these kind of situations. Adolf Hitler, a man who learned how to lie effectively, once said, if you tell a big enough lie and tell it frequently enough, it will be believed. And for Hitler, the lie was so big, he was able to kill 6 million Jews. And you ask, well, how did they manage to get away with that? How was the lie so big that people were sucked into it? Wasn't there someone or a group of people who, saw it for what it was and said, seriously, you think we can blame it all on the Jews? And that gives us the right to try and exterminate them? The depth of the lie is shown by the story of the Reserve Police Battalion 101. They were sent to a village called Josephal, home of 1,800 Jews. The general in charge of this scenario said, right, we're collecting all the Jewish men and we're sending them off to a work camp. However, the women, the children and the elderly will be taken aside and shot. And he said to every man there, if you feel that you can't do this, feel free to stand aside. We won't make you do this. We won't make you go ahead and do this. Out of the 500 men standing there that day, only 15 chose to opt out. How come that lie was so believable that people were prepared to do such a tragic and sad thing? Does anyone recognise this guy? Goebbels. The Nazi propaganda machine, driven by Joseph Goebbels. He was a master public relations professional. He produced movies, fake documents, books, and a whole bunch of stuff designed to show the German people that the Jews were their enemy. And from 1933 up until the end of the war, that propaganda machine was so successful that it was able to almost completely exterminate the Jews living in Europe. For example, this is a copy of a tabloid. It's called Der Stürmer, which translates to the attacker, a weekly tabloid format Nazi newspaper. And what it shows on here is that here are the Jews collecting blood from Christian children for use in religious rituals. So from 1933 onwards, this kind of stuff was in the papers on a regular basis. Now, there's a word that we use to describe this continual throwing up of material that we see on TV nowadays all the time. What does it do to our senses? Hint, hint. What does it do to our senses, our reaction to this kind of stuff? Desensitizes us to it. And so they set about a deliberate pathway to desensitize people to this kind of information so that it became part and parcel of what they saw all the time. And you go, but what about the individual? Why, what happened to these people? Anthony Sawoniuk is the guy on the left. He used to earn money running errands for Jews on the Sabbath. In 1941, his hometown in part of Poland was captured by the Nazis. He volunteered to join the auxiliary police and guarded the local Jewish ghetto. In 1942, nearly 3,000 Jews were rounded up and murdered. And this guy led search and kill police squads that hunted them down. The girl or the lady on the right, at the beginning of the war, Irmgard Huber was head nurse at a psychiatric hospital. In 1940, the hospital became part of a T4 killing centre, and anyone who was had mental or physical disabilities was cycled through this hospital and they were exterminated. They were given lethal injections, and she was in charge of administering those drugs. They're all common people. They're all the ordinary day, and in some cases you might call them mostly uneducated people. And you go, well, we can say that, well, they didn't really sort of have the ability to decipher right and wrong. They weren't educated. They weren't given enough information. That's the excuse that many of them used, like, we really didn't know what was going on. But in archaeology, of course, being a good history teacher, the scientific community has been fooled on many occasions. While Hitler was able to fool the common people, what about the scientific community? Are they easily fooled? In 1912, Charles Dawson discovered what they thought at the time was the missing link. Okay, so it's in Britain. It's like this guy's discovered a few bones. He starts putting them together in supposedly what he considers to be the right configuration. And all of a sudden it comes up with the missing link. The Piltdown Man. They were the bits that he found. The back end of the skull, bit on the right hand over the top, a nose bone, and then a jaw and some teeth. And he's going, look, it's the missing link. It's the thing we've all been looking for. Where did them find them? In a quarry not far from his home. But for 40 years, the Piltdown Man was considered real. He was considered to be the missing link that they'd all been looking for. Skeptics were around, of course, and slowly they grew in number, but because of the fact that the evolutionists wanted to find the missing link, and because of the fact that, well, England, the scientific community in England, we are the best, to have some bones appear like this all of a sudden convinces everyone that, well, it must be real. All of a sudden, we've found what we've been looking for. In 1953, the hoax was exposed. Why? Better science. Better scientific methods. Teeth and jawbone were from an orangutan. The skull bone was from human, about 520 years old. And the teeth had been filed down and the bones were artificially coloured. All of a sudden you got better ability to discern truth and error. And we get this scenario. But then lies have been around for a long time, haven't they? Yes? They've been around for a long time. That's right. The fall. He tells Eve, you will not certainly die, in Genesis 3:4. Let's have a look at the passage. Now the serpent was more crafty than the other beasts of the field that the Lord God had made. He said to the woman, so first of all he throws up a question. Did God actually say, you shall not eat of any tree in the garden? First of all, he gets you to question God's authority. He gets you to go, oh, well, I better have a think about that. And the woman said to the serpent, we may eat of the fruit of the trees in the garden, but God said, you shall not eat of the fruit of the tree that is in the midst of... Not sure why I'm missing the rest of that screen. We're missing a bit. Anyway. So, that's thrown me. Let's go to that one. For God knows that when you eat of it, your eyes will be open and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. So when the woman saw that the tree was good for food... I'm not going to go back there. Okay, so it says in verse 4, which is not on the screen, you will not certainly die. So Satan says, first of all he gets you to ask the question, and then he completely contradicts, what God is saying. And so for the little while he's got your attention about asking you the question, all of a sudden the doubts start to come in. All of a sudden, those niggly little, oh, well, maybe not, who knows? And with that, he then directly contradicts what's going on. But interestingly, for God knows that when you eat of it, your eyes will be open and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. So when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, ding, ticks one box. And it was delight to the eyes, tick, ding, number 2. And the tree was to be desired to make one wise. What did she do? Got 3 ticks. All of a sudden, it's meeting 3 really good criteria for Eve to go, maybe God isn't quite telling me the truth. And so she ate it. It says very clearly in the Bible that Satan is masquerading around as an angel of light. He makes things look really good. He's making things look really attractive. And so we get sucked into this lie. And sometimes with that blinding light from his masquerading, we can't see past that light. And so we get blinded by it. It talks about in... my text has gone missing off this. The God of this age, referring to Satan, has blinded the minds of unbelievers so that they cannot see the light of the gospel that displays the glory of Christ, who is in the image of God. The God of this age, it's referring to Satan, the God of this age. Now, this age can be any age, but it's still applicable today as it was all those years ago when the Bible was written, because for time immortal, Satan has been masquerading around as a wonderful thing and has been blinding us all, and we can't see what's really going on. Sometimes we might feel like that. We talk about a rabbit or a deer being caught in the headlights, don't we? You know, something so in our face that we can't see past it. We get blinded and we get caught in the headlights. So what things are blinding us? What things are making it hard for us to see the big picture about what's really going on here? Come on, you tell me. What things blind us? Bingo. What else? Media. What else? What things are we so transfixed by that we don't or aren't able to stand back and see the bigger picture? What else is going on? Paying bills. Here's a couple to start with. Blinded. The busyness of life. Running from pillar to post. Here's one I have a problem with. The things that take up our time. What about this one? I have to confess, I've only ever been to maybe 3 real live cricket matches. I think 2 at the SCG and 1 at Brisbane at the Gabba. But when the cricket comes on, my wife knows. Sorry, wife. I promised I wouldn't be telling any stories today unless they just came up to me. You know, when the cricket's on, the kids and my wife don't interrupt him. He's just watching the score updates or something. Someone said technology. Yeah, our TVs. They take up our time, don't they? They distract us. They keep us blinded. The technology. But it says very clearly in Thessalonians that the devil is a tempter. Hello, knocking on your door today. The problem is that everywhere the devil is working, he's looking for ways to make us become addicted. What is addiction? State in which an organism engages in a compulsive behaviour, it's reinforcing, and we lose the ability to control or limit the intake. Why? Because in Revelation 12:9, it says the great dragon was thrown down, the ancient serpent who is called the devil, Satan, and he's the deceiver of the world. And we could end the story there and go, yep, he's a deceiver and we've got lots of things to work on. We've got lots of issues that we need to sort out and try and put aside and see the big picture that God loves us. End of story for the sermon today. But fortunately, in the Bible, it actually gives us a little bit more to work on. Be sober-minded, be watchful. Your adversary, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion, seeking someone to devour. Resist him, firm in your faith. What are you going to do this week to avoid the roaring lion, the deceiver? What are the addictions, what are the things in your life today which are blinding you from seeing the big picture? How can we be firm in our faith? Well, it's not rocket science. What is our faith built on? The Bible. What is our hope built on? The death of Jesus Christ and the resurrection, the empty tomb. This week, I don't know what challenges you're going to have. I don't know what things are going to come across your path. I don't know the issues that each of you struggle with. But we've got some words of advice this morning from Joshua. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. For the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. Let us live lives this week that are glorious to God, because we're strong and courageous, because we have his hope in our hearts, we have his word in our brains, and we can live out his life through us this week. Let's just bow our heads. Lord, we are blessed. In so many ways we are blessed. We have the ability to discern the truth only as we read your word and as we allow your Holy Spirit to dwell in our hearts. Lord, this week, help us to not be blinded, to be able to see the big picture, to allow your testimony and your works to be lived out in our lives. In your name, amen.